Can you hear me now? I think you can probably hear me now because I didn't press on. I pressed on once, but not twice. I think you'll be able to hear me now. So I think you can hear me now. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I probably just should make this quiet. There's a million and one things here to just sort out. But yes, sorry about that, Kerry. I did press live on once, but not twice. So it's on now. So I was just saying, it's very easy to change one meal into another, even though the ingredients are the same, just through the method of making. So, you know, we go with what was toast with a broad bean puree on top, which was horror show messy to eat at Orist Head, into serpentine woods with a bun, which was just totally lovely. So I wanted to take the lovely puree, which is broad bean, and obviously that's seasonal, and put it into a tart. Also just remind us of the intricacies of pastry, because pastry fails often for good reason, actually. And yes, so we'll go through that today. So I'm going to just quickly kind of move on. We have got 3 camera angles now. We've got this, Kerry, onto here. So I hope that that's good. And then obviously we've got the overhead into the pan as well. I'll keep looking left to check everything is okay. We have 2 new cameras in here, so hopefully my mouth is speaking at the same time as the audio as well. So a number of problems, so we'll just generally fix them as we go through. Now then, so we need to just toast these agouti seeds from lovely Kerry. And I noticed actually they puff up, don't they, when they're happy chappies. So that's what is just going to happen there. Out of the fridge, I'm just going to get my pastry, and let's just have a look at that. So we're now going to make this pastry, and I've literally got some wholemeal flour, some plain flour, some salt, and some of my butter. And the recipe is here, but after this I will just have another look at it. So that's why you've not got it right now, but it is here. And we're going to just make this pastry. And actually, you know, with pastry, I often do it in the Magimix, because why wouldn't you? But you know, it's not always possible to have a Magimix. Not everybody has a Magimix, and I don't want the ease with which we can rub fat into flour to put people off making pastry. And in fact, you can kind of really get a feel for what you're doing when you do it by hand. In a machine, you just do it, don't you? So I think if you know what you're doing, do it in a machine. But if you don't, possibly start doing it by hand. And you really are, you're just getting the fat, the large bits of fat, and rubbing them, quite literally rubbing them into the flour. It's nice. It's a nice thing to do. When I first read that instruction years ago, rub fat into flour, I didn't really know what the hell I was, you know, what that really meant. But you just have to rub. I can feel a bit of fat there. So yeah, so with pastry, everything cold. So this flour feels quite cold. It's been sat in the fridge there, and it has to be as cold as you can bear it. I mean, if you could put it in the freezer, it'd be even better, really. Not frozen, but just cold. A metal bowl is better to keep everything cold. And the fat obviously has to be cold, otherwise it starts to emulsify. So, you know, you're just looking at breadcrumbs, really. So that's all done, and we're happy with that now. So that's nice. Happy. I'm just going to get my hands clean. Good. And then we need to just make this. So yeah, let's just have a look then at this. You've got these little seeds, and they're going 3-dimensional. I really like that about them, actually. And they start making that little noise, don't they? So let's just now go back to this. So I've got a jug of water here, and I know it's going to be about that much. So I'm using a spoon to do this because I don't want to put my fingers into the fat any more than I need to. And I guess that's one reason why we should be using a Magimix. I've got cold hands, so I do pastry well. Some people have got very hot hands. It really does come down to things like that. You don't want to melt the fat into the flour at all. You want to keep it separate. Okay, so I can just see that that's coming together now. Still is quite dry. Now I need to remember to say that wholemeal flour obviously behaves slightly differently to regular flour. And it's going to sit for at least half an hour, ideally frozen. Let's just put him off now. Put those seeds off. So yeah, ideally frozen. I've put a bit too much water in that, but I'm all right with that because it's going to sit and it's going to go into the bran and the wheat germ. And there is a potential for it, if it's just wet enough to hold it together, there is the potential for it to be too dry when you come to use it. And then you'll have to add water when you don't want to. But we also must bear in mind that water is going in order to bind it together but not swell it up. Put a bit too much in here, I think. And of course the water coming out during cooking is the thing that causes shrinkage. So it's this very careful balance, especially with wholemeal flour, that you get it right. So for me with wholemeal flour, I tend to just think I'd like it a little bit on the wet side, which is what this is actually. As soon as I put my hand in here now, this feels like marshmallow. This is lovely. A bit like the paratha last week. You can see in that bowl, I've got some of the dry flour, but I'm not actually going to do anything with that now. I'm not going to roll that in. I'm just going to take that away. And we just do a little bit of a... But can you see... Let's bring this a little bit closer. It's really, really, really soft. It's lovely, that. It's not overworked. You don't want it overworked, because if you've overworked the gluten, you've got bread. And you don't. It's the last thing you want. You want short pastry. So that there is lovely. And he's going to go in here. So... Come on, Mr. Cling Film. I mean, I quite like to tear all these cling film bits and everything before, but I end up with everything just everywhere. So you've just got to suffer on. So cover the edge. You know, you want to seal this bad boy in cling film, and then yes, you at least half an hour to rest him, ideally frozen. To be honest, and by the miracle that is this, we can see what I made earlier. So I've got my oven on, it's 180, and I'm doing individual tarts, and the individual tarts tins that I've got, which you may buy, I want to warn you about them. Let me just get one here. Well, first of all, right, so this here, I must have bought this about 30 years ago. This was absolutely disaster, actually. A, the pastry didn't cook. B, the sides are really like 90 degrees. What else went wrong? Well, I mean, it was well greased, but there was no coming off. Possibly I cooked it too low a temperature, I don't know, but that there, terrible. That was from a very reputable kitchen shop in Cheltenham. This was better, these are better, this type of thing. Let's see if I can, have to go here, I think. Get better at that. This feels like it's a bit non-stick, but it's better because it's got an angle, like, so it opens up. So I think that affects how it cooks. You don't want to raise a sharp side, I don't think. Also, it's more frilly, so I think that affects how it cooks as well. I don't know. This is not science. This is just experience, real world cooking, and then little bases. So I've got one here. Got one here. So I've greased it. So obviously I took the thing out and greased it. I didn't want to do this because my hands would get even more mucky. But I did go with my little finger and some butter down each. You know, I'm not leaving anything to chance. And these are really thin. This is a really thin piece of metal. And I found my secret way to get this done is to cook everything on one of these. This is a good big thick tray, and I preheat this and I cook my tarts, these small tarts, on here like that. And the reason I'm doing that is because I get more heat, because my bigger tins are really thick metal, so they like get the heat and then they push it through the tart. This could take an hour to cook. Well, it did when I first did it, and I thought, oh, I'm not doing that again. I couldn't remember that from the past. So I put this underneath. I just threw all that away. Started again, put this underneath, preheated it, just put it in the oven cold, put the oven on, put this on. Brilliant, brilliant. So that's my top tip. Use a baking tray. So that's that. Now, what else do we need to do? So we need to just, where's the grater? Here it is. So we're just going to line. I might zoom that camera in a bit next week. Right, so I've got some pastry here, and it's a bit soft because it's been a little bit sat out actually. I forgot about it, but I'm going to just grate the pastry in. It's very soft, not ideal. Let's just go with that chunk there. But you want to grate it in. Oh, that's better. That's coming through now. So yeah, the harder the better, obviously, really. But you need about 40 grams of pastry, finished pastry. That's probably about enough. Grating's a lot easier than rolling. Why? Because you can just then control it all. Rolling, you'll end up with a circle that's a bit big, and then you go, well, I don't know what to do with that. So let's just say I'm not getting my hand. Need to move around that way. Right, okay. So do the edge first. Doesn't matter if it sticks up. Push it round. Thinking all the time, thinking. Right, when I cut into this, I want it to be really sharp on the edge. I don't want the edge to be like thick, especially at the bottom. So just think about that. Feel with your fingers as well. Looking all the time, going, right, okay, that bit there, that looks a bit thin, that'll crack. There we go. So that's that. And then you can just take off the top bit, press it in, and just press that there and neaten that edge. Although you can do that actually. Some people do the edge neatening. A professional chef does the edge at the end. Why? Because even if the pastry shrinks, he can cut it off at the top. I don't actually really, I'm just going to put this in here. I don't teach that way because I just think that that's a bit fraught and there shouldn't be too much shrinking anyway. So we're going to blind bake this 180 for 20 minutes. So we're going to use baking beans, which you can see there in the one I've done already. So 180, you've got your tray in, it's reheated, it's heating up, and you've pressed this in and you've grated this a little bit more successfully than I did there. So we've got him in, let's just get him out of the way. So lovely, lovely job. Right, so we've got him. Now what we're aiming for eventually is this. It's blind baked, and when you bring a blind baked out and you ask the very natural question, which is it cooked? I took this out and didn't finish it, but you can see there's a little bit of slightly undercooked there. I did this one a bit thicker, but you know, you do yours however neat you want it to be. The finished one that I've got somewhere for later, that's extremely neat. But I just threw it in really, so that isn't quite cooked. So if it's not quite cooked, it isn't quite cooked, you know. So let's go. So let's just check that's nice and even, just do a better job on that. But we're going to fill this one now. So this now, let's just pretend this is red hot. And this is going on here, and this is going to blind bake for 20 minutes, and then you end up with this. So that's nice. Right, so we're just going to take these little seeds out of there. We're going to now get on with the filling. Right, one thing at once, Julia. That's that. Right, so we're going to do a topping of tomato. Now, why did I do a topping of tomato? Well, look nice, and covered the pea because it changes the bean, because it changes colour a bit actually. You want about 8 slices, I think that's about enough for the topping, maybe 6, but do yourself some more. Now then, when I first cut tomato for my mum salads, she taught me to cut that middle stem off. Now that I eat whole food, I don't. I just divide it equally between the slices. And actually it holds the tomato quite nicely together. I know a purist doesn't agree with that, but I don't really care. I don't know, if you're doing this, confit your tomato in a way, olive oil and tomato. If you're doing this, you might want to just do what I've decided to do right now, which is to just do the rest of this, and then it's ready for a salad topping or a sandwich filling. Quite a lot of people don't really like tomato. I'm not really surprised because it just can be a bit watery, but if you confit it with some olive oil, you're in a winner. So let's get some oil hot. Let's just show you that. Have I done that right? That's it. It's not very light. I've got so much light. Let's just see me put this in. Anyway, we'll get these things sorted. Rome's not built in a day. It's a little bit hot, that. Right, that's good. So obviously we're going to put some salt in. I like to put pepper in because I like it. I know. I hear people say, oh, but it's a spice, you didn't use it all the time. I kind of do. Right, okay, so we've got that in there. Let's just think, what's next? So we need to put some garlic in. So yeah, I would never put just sort of raw slices of anything on the... I wouldn't have put raw slices of tomato on the top of this pea puree. It would have wrecked it. But I'm just now going to just come back to this view. Isn't it nice not seeing me? And I wanted the garlic flavour in, but I wanted to see it. I quite like seeing ingredients actually. So really, really wafer thin. I don't know if I can see that. As thin as you can. You're shaving, because you're going to get this in your mouth. You know, so thin, you can almost see through it. That'll do. Just check these tomatoes. Right, let's have a look at this. So those tomatoes are looking quite nice. And if you get nice tomatoes or you grow your own, that's perfect for this. Now those little garlic slices are going to go in with the tomatoes. So they're just going to sit there for the moment. And we're going to go on with peas. Peas and beans. Right, so we need, in this here I've got, what will I have, 40, about 40, it's a handful of peas. And then I've got some broad beans going in here. So these need to be double podded. So let me just make sure I'm putting enough in here. That's how we need to do that. Just keeping an eye on everything. And yeah, so nice and green basically. And if you just make this, on the recipe there'll be how to do the outside version. And the outside version stays super green actually, because you just heat it through, you don't cook it in the oven. What else do I need to tell you about this? Okay, so my decision process as a cook would be, okay, I want it to hold together. I want it to have a puree. I'm going to have to puree some of it. It's going to go a funny colour in the oven, so I need to cover that up. I need it to be attractive, so I do definitely need to put something on the top. So let's go with a nice colour tomato. You know, so those are the things that you need to think about if you're going off piste and you're thinking about, well, I don't have any broad beans. What do I have? You know, my mum used to give me, someone used to give me blooming broad beans that nobody had done this to as a child. A horror show. I mean, these pods, Georgia likes them, but she's not very fussy. I just don't really like them. So yeah, so I wanted to puree it because then it's nice and smooth, but I didn't want to do too much of the pureeing. I've done some already, so I'm slowly counting up here. I think this will be enough now. Right, okay, so obviously as cooks we do many things at once, so that's now sitting there. We're just going to have a look at this, which is all good. So we're softening that and reducing that, but that really now is as soft as it goes. It doesn't really work if you just put raw tomato on the top. So I'm putting the garlic in to just take the edge off the garlic. So that now is coming together as a good topping. So you've got the sweetness of the tomatoes, you've got the garlic going in, which is lovely, salt and pepper, proper balance. The only thing you might want to do is to put a bit of vinegar in that, but I think not. I think it's pretty good as it is, to be honest. You can overwork things. Well, my brain can anyway. Right, let's just double check I'm just doing all these stages right. Let me just think. Right, okay, so we've got our tart and we're trying to come up with a filling for him. So let's just get back to that. Right, so we've got a blender because we're going to need to blend. So for the puree, we need to put a bit of oil in there. Hold it together, about a tablespoon, not much. You could probably get away without it. Little bit of lemon to balance that on the palate, and some Ras Al Hanout. Got that wrong. Salt, bit of pepper, and then we're going to blend. So I kind of get everything into the middle as much as I can. And as it blends down, I keep moving things to the middle. I'm obviously very impatient because you've got to let the blade stop before you move it. But gradually, it goes underneath and it goes into the middle. You choose for yourself how much of a puree you want. I think that's fine. Let's get this out. Taste it. Put more spice in if you want, you know. Don't put water in it. It's watery enough. You don't want to put water in it. If you want to put anything in it, a little bit more oil, or maybe some vegan cream cheese or something, I suppose. So that's now ready. So I've got my topping now ready. So that's all good. So let's just make sure we can see. Okay, so use your sense with this. When you fill it. So yeah, these obviously the blind bake cases, I mean, they can be frozen. I do have to say, I think all this here, you just want to basically make them and eat them, really, and then you want to reheat them for a less important meal, or you want to make them, cool them, and then eat them for salads and with salad and lunches. This is a really good meal though. Right, so when you're filling, what am I doing? I'm making sure that I'm not covering the edge. I don't want to cover that edge with pea, and I'm pushing him in, but I don't want him to look flat. I want him to look wholesome. Let's just get so that there. So you've obviously you've got your oven on now. Let's just move on from the blind baking situation. It's funny when I start doing things, I say, right, well, I need to do the pastry before, and then I'll need to do that before, and then I've got like many different things all being done early. It's really weird. Okay, so let's just use our fingers a little bit, because it'll just make things a little bit easier. Right, okay, so you want to put the garlic in. I'm just checking that you can see. You want to put the garlic in, certainly 4, maybe a few more. Depends who you are and what you like. But spread them out, so that's nice. And then start, I can't do this with this. So the beauty of doing more tomatoes anyway is that if some go all mushy, doesn't matter, because you've got some to play with. I mean, I think actually the waste in Michelin style restaurants is hugely high for that reason. I quite like the way I've done that actually. Excuse me, don't know where the cough's come from. Let's just see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. 4's not right. 3 or 5 always. But you'll put a bit of char on all of this. Let's just find one that's what we need, that one there. So choose well. No garlic should be observed during the oven process. It will burn, it will be awful. He's all right. So also when I'm doing this, so I'm just kind of doing it, aren't I? But I'm not really, because I'm just thinking, right, well, when I put this down in front of a diner, I want him to look pretty, so which way is forwards? I think I've done a poor job on that, but I'm not going to fiddle now. There's something visually that's not quite right there for me. But anyway, on we go. It's done. It's not too bad. We're all right, aren't we? Now the goosey seeds, they have to wait. So obviously this has now come from the oven. It's dead hot, and he goes on and he gets cooked for half an hour, 40 minutes. And then when you're testing whether he's done, get him out, burn your fingers, lift up at least half an hour to 40 minutes at this stage. Lift up, look under, tap it. If it's not tapping, if it's flaccid, soft in any way, it's not done. No. Oh, another thing I should just say, when you do this, I just did it, but when you have this quarter of tin foil, make sure that you really cover the edges of the pastry so it doesn't over brown. That's another thing. The beans obviously to weight it down. So that now becomes, let's just move this on as much as we can, crowding the place. So this goes really nicely with watercress, and let's just take him away. Watercress is lovely, but I have actually just scored out doing a watercress puree. I've written the recipe up. It's puree's in there, but just, oh goodness me, let's not bother. Let's just do what I did for the woods, which is watercress base. So if you're serving this tart, no blobs of watercress. We're not Long Clume, although we admire and respect Simon Rogan, of course. Here we are. So here's one I made earlier. And let's just get what will work, possibly this. So you can slide, let's just go a bit closer. So obviously you can slide that down, and that makes it easier to handle. You know, carrying these loose bottom things around is always difficult, so using a tray is ideal, baking tray, to maneuver these things around. So actually it's a very simple meal. I think it looks really pretty on a watercress base like that, really informal. I would can't stop myself from getting that stalk possibly sticking out somewhere else. But that is it. And then finally we've got these little goosey seeds. Now 3 max obviously, or 5, and then 1 or 2 in there. I personally didn't see the need to be dressing the watercress when I ate that outside. I just threw the seeds in the bowl, watercress, then I put the bun on top and had a lovely time and ate it all with my fingers. And Georgia obviously had some. But yes, just spreading things out around the plate so you can see what it is. That's where we are. So that there is the tart. So it's a broad bean and pea puree tart topped with pan roasted tomatoes, sitting on a bed of watercress with a wholemeal pastry case and a goosey seed. So thank you for those, Kerry. And if you want to ask any questions, feel free. I don't think there was something I felt I needed to say to you, but I think I might have said it during the process. Here we are. Where do you get the pie dishes from? So are you talking about these pie dishes? Let's just get me back to here. If you're talking about these little tart tins, I mean, there was a shop in Cheltenham called the Kitchener, and they just sold everything like this. The version of that here, I think, is better. It's that CP Catering on the corner near that hotel. You know, Castle Street garage area. You know, the road bridge that, one-way road bridge that goes over the river. CP Catering's on the corner there near that hotel that's got a pool. So going there, I mean, I get, there's some really lovely things in there. So those are, to be honest, with catering stuff, it's always better, isn't it? Especially things like this that are so important. I mean, if you could get purely non-stick, brilliant. It does really make a difference to hold something in your hand and look at it, I think. As cookery is so tactile, we can buy, you know, HDMI leads online, but I'm just not sure that buying cookery stuff online is a good idea. Have you switched to cast iron pans? These cast iron pans, I have actually, yes. It's either these or Le Creuset. I really like cooking with cast iron. I've been looking for some handle protectors, but it just works on this, which is a cast iron thing, and obviously this is LPG. So it just works, and I prefer it, and I prefer the way it cooks, but it's as good as Le Creuset. They're both the same in my mind, but I've moved away from pans, although Scoville are good. Salt on tomatoes is a game changer. Couldn't eat them raw. Oh, I know. I think tomatoes basically horrible without salt. Not used broad beans before. Okay. Yes. Well, like I said, I had broad beans as a child that hadn't been double podded. So they've been got out of their main pods, but not the inner pods, and they're disgusting. When they're done like this, they are absolutely lovely. And if I had a polytunnel, I'd definitely grow them. They're really nice. I think they're like edamame beans, or they're called edamame beans. Yeah. But better. I think they're just better. They're in season now. They go hand in hand with new potatoes, and are a wonderful flavour. They're quite strong, and so too I put some peas in here as a little pop of sweetness. But I did want the ras el hanout in because it just added something without saying hello, I'm chilly. You know. Were they fresh? No, I couldn't buy them fresh. I didn't go to the market on Wednesday. I didn't make that much effort. I got them from the supermarket, Asda probably. Yeah, maybe not. It could have been Sainsbury's. Got them frozen, and then I just left them because I just wanted to preserve the green. So I got them out, put them in the Tupperware, put them in the fridge, and just left them to defrost. So I did that yesterday. For tonight, I've had various ones on the go. If you buy them frozen, they're already depodded. They're not double. No, they're not double depodded. They're not double podded. So you know, where are they? Here they are. So let's just be clear. So this broad bean has been podded. It's come out of its main pod. But when you take that external out and you get it out and it's bright green, that is double depodded. No, double podded even. But that you can eat raw. I mean, I love them. In a salad, broad beans would be gorgeous. Really nice. Protein, good. What else? Edamame would work, I think, but I find edamame slightly drier on the palate, if I'm honest. Broad beans are very British, I think. Edamame are probably flown in, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. You just made one. Does the recipe make multiple? Yes, by the time I publish the recipe, at the moment the recipe is publishing, making 2 little tarts, because I think that'd probably be enough. And then you can scale accordingly, but I'll finalise that for Friday. Good to see the agouti seeds. Yes, I was really pleased to see them pop up a bit. I mean, I just love them anyway. Yes, I know where you mean. I've definitely had them with the second pod on. Right, well, good. I've taught you something then. I'm pleased. Yes, no, it's a game changer. I think you'll move away from edamame if you can get British broad beans to slip out of that final husk. I mean, it's just a husk. It stays on your palate and you miss the best bit, which is this. So that's all good. I'll try them. Lovely. And yes, you know, you could, I mean, if you wanted to dress, you could put more, you know, watercress on top. That's nice. You could do watercress puree. Maybe I should just leave that on the recipe, just so that, you know, you could put pops of that on. Let's just see, we've got pomegranate molasses. You could put some blobs of that around that, very definitely. Balsamic glaze would sit nicely. I don't think you want to be putting anything else on looking at the ingredients. I think we're done with that. We would overwork it. Oh, I tell you what would be quite nice. Maybe some little cherry tomatoes, thinly sliced, maybe 3. Maybe just 1, or a single radish or something. No, don't do that. That's a bad idea. Maybe a little bit more tomato underneath, but you know, it's done for me. Good. So I think that's it. So well done for sitting through. And thank you for coming. And I don't know what I'm doing next week because I'm doing this. I have to stop myself from thinking next week before I've even done this one. So that's good. But yes, if you've got a glut, that's it. That's what I wanted to say. If you've got a glut, Kerry, of anything in the garden at the moment, tell me what it is, because then I can develop a recipe for it. I thought that would be good. But thank you for coming. I wish you a nice evening and bon appetit for your tea. Are we saying goodbye? I think we're saying goodbye. I'll have to go over now and end the live. So let's just finish on that lovely plate of food.